Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Zimbabwe Daily. My name is Patie T Mashiri, and yes, we are back again on our program, Meet the Candidate, where we bring you all the different candidates who are running for 2023 elections. As you know, we are already in August, and we are approaching the next election, which will be in the next 12 months. Yes, it's only 12 months left before the next general elections. And today, we have a very special guest in the house who is joining us online, and her name is Manyara Irene Muyenziwa, and she will definitely introduce herself. So come on, bring on more people. Let you share this program, and you might stand a chance to win a t-shirt. And remember, if you didn't visit the ZEC offices, you can check if you're still a registered voter and where you'll be voting for, at which polling station you'll be voting. So you just go and check on your mobile phone, just dial *265#, and yes, of course, put all the information that is needed, and you definitely know where you'll be voting. So without wasting much of your time, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. And today, like I said, we have a female presidential candidate who is joining us online, and I will let her introduce herself. Thank you so much for joining us today, Madam President Irene Manyara Muyenziwa. You can introduce yourself to the platform.
Thank you very much, Patience. My name is Manyara Irene Muyenziwa, and I am the leader for Freedom of Rights under Sovereign Party.
Thank you so much. So without wasting much of your time, Madam President, let's just get into it. People would want to know, yes, you said you are Irene, and people would want to know who you are and which political party you represent, and probably a little bit about your journey into politics.
Well, I'm a Zimbabwean myself, born in Zimbabwe. I've traveled to UK for studies and lived there, I think due to the economic hardships in Zimbabwe. But I have come back to Zimbabwe with a new political party called Freedom of Rights under Sovereign Party. I think looking at the hardships of Zimbabwe and how we can find the best way forward to forge the country forward with a positive impact that can emancipate Zimbabwe economically. Myself, I'm a scientist, by profession, and then went on to study diplomatic studies as well on a political level as well. I've looked into so many different facets of the Zimbabwean economy, the Zimbabwean politics, and come up with possible solutions that we have through FORUS Party, Freedom of Rights under Sovereign, and trying to push the country in the right direction and making sure that we reach the goal that we want to see of a different Zimbabwe, an emancipated Zimbabwe economic wise, a Zimbabwe that has got a better livelihood of the people. What we need to see is a fresh start and a real path to transformation, a change in Zimbabwe that seeks to build on the liberal and democratic discourse, of which FORUS Party is a liberal party with a transformational economic agenda that is there for the people, so that we can have unity and partiality and equality where the distribution of income is concerned. I think looking at the resources that we have within our own country, how we can maximize production, we are much more concentrating on the economy specifically, to see how we can come up with possible solutions that can revive the livelihoods of the Zimbabwean people. So FORUS Party is a centrist party in the sense that we are both for the socialist aspect and the capitalist aspect, of which we've looked at the Zimbabwean problem. And we did see that we are lacking the middle class economy. With the middle class economy, I'm talking about nurses, doctors, teachers, students, police, the army, the farmers. You're looking at even builders, plumbers, and also all people who you put in that class of a middle class economy, and not forgetting the business side of things. You're looking at the small business sector and even large business sectors. But then we are looking at that middle class economy so that we can revive the economy, so that we can create a tax base that can allow Zimbabwe's government to have a proper function on how it can allocate resources and how it can revive our infrastructure and how it can come up with a possible solution that can sustain the economy in a much better way so that people can have a carry on of a better livelihood.
I can see that, President, you already feel like you're already at a rally, the way you speak. But anyway, probably my next question is, what is your position as a party on gender representation, and what challenges are you facing as a female politician?
I think it's a myriad of challenges in a patriarchal society, as we all know, not just in Zimbabwe, like I keep saying, it's all across Africa, and it's something that we need to look into and see, how we can put women on these right platforms, on these decision-making platforms, because we do have a say, we do have a knowledge, we do know how to lead a country, how to lead a business, and I'm sure if you put a woman, I think you'll find that the way we think in a multitask manner, in a way that we can find solutions much better. Not that I'm saying that men don't think or men don't come up with solutions, but us as women, I think we need to be tried, we need to be put in these positions, we need to be there with the men so that we can create this 50-50 representation, which is still a dream, and there is a serious need for having a legal framework that enforces gender equality, empowerment of women, equity in politics in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe currently just has, as we know, about 33.2% female representation in the National Assembly. And with harmonized elections, we're looking at the presidential, parliamentary, the Senate, and the local government. It is important to reflect on the intersection of political participation and gender inequality in the country. So this is something that I'm pushing for, that I'm rooting for, so that, we can have a fair approach, to how women are treated. In Zimbabwe, we've got most women who still feel intimidated by men, and they stay out of politics, or when they are in there, they play it safe, not challenging the men. They're quite happy, to be delegates or be submissive in their duties, to men. So this is something that we need to see as a change. For starters, I'm a leader myself of this political party, and I'm sure you can see the way we've come up with this party, the trajectory, trail of how this party has been formulated to where it is now. You can see there is reasoning, there is structure, there is a resourceful, network of how a political party, should be maintained. So this is something that I want to put in there so that, those that compete with men, you see that, unfortunately, sometimes they are labeled as men, or they are seen as unwomen. Some women still find, their involvement in politics as emotionally raking as they face, various types of abuses and so forth. So this is something that I want to change in Zimbabwe. Although the constitution, it requires all political parties to meet the constitutional provisions, on matters such as, gender parity and equality, or political, political opportunities. Patriarchy remains a widespread problem, and there seems to be a deliberate reluctance, by political parties to appreciate the need for affirmative measures, that are required, towards our women, especially women in the rural areas. I've gone around trying to, but hearing their issues, understanding, where they're coming from, what is it that they need to see being changed. You're looking at young girls, facing so many issues of not realizing their horizons because of a limit of the opportunities, that they have, the lack of exposure, to so many things. When a girl turns 16, the next thing that they're thinking about is perhaps having a child. Having a child not just because they want to, but having a child because they want to leave their parents' house and have thinking that they can have a better livelihood. By so doing, they're limiting themselves because in terms of careers, in terms of maturity, in terms of emotional development, all of those things are not realized at the age age of 16. So we need to bring in, opportunities, for women all across Zimbabwe. And another thing that we have there is women's private lives are publicly scrutinized, and demeaned. And we do have a lot of misogyny and sexism that takes, center stage in Zimbabwe. For instance, young women who are unmarried, women, such as independent, candidates. Well, I put myself, for that matter, because I'm an unmarried woman, are not easily accepted, by rural communities, including chiefs, rural women, headmen, and so forth. It goes without saying that when the electoral environment is patriarchal and prejudiced, women are automatically marginalized. So these are some of the things that I'll be going around, remove all these major obstacles, for women's participation in politics in Zimbabwe. Is largely, as you see, that it's largely shaped, different forms. These forms are cultural forms, societal, barriers in the form of violence, discrimination, and illiteracy. So these are all the things that I will be looking into to see how I can put women on the right platform so that their voices can be heard.
And I think you also have answered partly my next question, which is we know that your party is coming as a 34th and changed the leadership tradition of male presidential candidates, because I think if you check online sometimes, there were like people talking about female candidates, female presidential candidates, talking as such things, different things from different people, some even saying Zimbabwe some stuff like that. So do you care to kind of explain the need for leadership renewal in Zimbabwe?
Oh, there is a lot of leadership renewal. I usually link everything to evidence on how women want to see a change in Zimbabwe. If you look at the vote cast, I keep repeating that 65 to 70%, of the vote cast comes from women. So there you can see who wants to see the change. There you can see somebody who is voicing inadvertently, in the way that they want to see Zimbabwe, change. In that, I'm saying when I mean inadvertently, they are not allowed to have a voice, in these positions. So leadership really needs to change. As you can see, I think there's not a lot of women, who are there. I think you've got, Linda, who is there. I think you've got, FORUS Patie, myself, having, women leadership. So these are the changes that we want to see, of which we can see a better Zimbabwe. So the issue of leadership has been given to men, and as you can see, we're having a lot of issues in terms of violence, factions, divisions, a lack of clarity on where the country is heading. So we want to see women in these positions. We want to make sure that women leaders can be heard. I'm sure we've been tried and tested. I myself have been tried and tested in terms of running a business. But if you see with all the current leaders in Zimbabwe at this particular point in time, some of them, yes, have been given positions where jobs, were concerned, but they were not positions of leadership. Of which a leadership position, you've got to be somebody who have got a track record, of that leadership position. And if you look out on all these political parties, you do have some, who've got leadership qualities, that are there, but you do have some, who are leading these political parties, but they have never run any business or any something on a grand scale. So there you are inviting a problem there, whereby if somebody has not been tried and tested, how do we trust this person to deal with our vast resources, to deal with a huge economy, that is in distress at this particular, point in time? Somebody who's got a background, of, an economic background and understanding, how the country, should be run. So in terms of leadership, I'm the true leadership, for Zimbabwe, as I've said, because I've been tried and tested with the many businesses, that I run, where, you've got to calculate, you've got to do feasibility studies, you've got to come up, with policies, that speak to the problem, the policies, that can look into where we are now, instead of, pointing people to say, this is what I'm going to promise you, this is what is it that we want to do. We want to have a bottom-up approach, a leadership that understands, this particular issue that Zimbabwe has. We do have a myriad of issues where the economy is concerned. So with true leadership, with proper leadership that has been tried and tested, I'm sure we can see Zimbabwe forging forward in a positive manner.
Thank you so much, Madam President. To those who have just joined us online today on our program, Meet the Candidate, we have Manyara Irene Muyenziwa, the President for Freedom of Rights Under Sovereign, or just say FORUS, a presidential candidate, speaking your mind, talking. I like the part where you said you went to the rural areas just to hear what the women really want you as a candidate to do for them, rather than the other way around, where candidates come and say, I will do this for you and that. So definitely when you get in power, Madam President, for us, the Chitungisa community, we would want you to push for us to have our own source of water, because we do rely on Harare. So yes, you can keep on sending your messages, any questions that you have for the president. She will be ready to answer you. So my next question for you, Madam President, is your party introduced transformational politics. And politics of policies to Zimbabwe. We are now seeing the ruling party and fellow, of course, opposition parties, copying probably your brand, or, brand of politics, including Mangwema stances, in terms of sanctions. What's your take on this development?
Yes, it is true what you're saying, because as I've said, if you lack the right leadership for the country, then you don't have an understanding of what is it that you need to do first. So with FORUS Party, I'm sure the whole of Zimbabwe are saying, what is it that we need to start with first? So FORUS Party is speaking to the people of Zimbabwe and actually understanding that we do have a problem, and where are the problem? Where is it that we've got the problem? We've got the problem, I think, like I've just said, where women are concerned. We've got the problem where the economy is concerned. We've got a problem where our students, our youth is concerned. We've got a problem where businesses are concerned. We've got a problem, whereby our middle sector, as I've said, the nurses, doctors, and all those people who we really need to look after. So if you have got an understanding and people are listening and they can see who speaks sense, who is talking to the actual problem that we have, that we want to deal with, and accept that, we need to actually face the shock that we're going to face as a country where the economy is concerned. Because like I've said, we've got a huge debt that we have, roughly about 20 billion that is going to be paid. Somebody is going to speak to the people and understand, where does the money come from? You've got to create employment. You've got to create businesses. In creating employment and businesses, you're looking at the middle class economy. So we are speaking to such people. So when you look into it, people relate to that. People can see, okay, who is making sense? Who is talking about the actual Zimbabwean problem that we have, where the economy is concerned. So when we speak like that, people start to listen. And then when we talk about the issues of how we can create a favorable condition, a nice reputation that our country, needs to have, where the international arena aspect comes into play. You're looking at the issue of sanctions, of which I did say, those are targeted sanctions. Zimbabwe is allowed to trade with any country out there, but then it's not us as a country who are actually understanding, okay, with the resources that we have, we're looking about mining resources, we're talking about tourism resources, we're talking about agricultural resources, we're talking about the digital market, how we can come up, with so many things, that we can, use these different tools, so that we can industrialize the economy. So when you speak like that, people can relate, to such issues, because they can see those are the issues on the ground. And this is the proper pathway that FORUS is talking about, that we need to take as a country, so that we can realize, the economic freedom that we are talking about. Because it's no longer the liberation struggle right now. It's all about the economic struggle. We've moved away from the liberation struggle. We are now in the stance of economic struggle, where we need to look at our country and see, okay, what is the economic leverage that we have as a country, that we can actually show to the countries out there in the world, that we can create, trade relations that can better our economy, so that we can make our country great again. So when we speak like that, we are speaking to the ordinary Zimbabwean. We're speaking speaking to the business sector. We're speaking to all these people in the middle class economy, like I've said. Even the capitalists, themselves, they're liking the idea that for us is that, we're opening the country for business. But when we say we're opening the country for business, we do not want to segregate, our credit facilities, our credit lines. We do not segregate the people that we want to deal with. We want to deal with all four corners, of the world, so that we can enhance our economy in a proper manner. So if we segregate ourselves in the way that we look at who we're going to deal with, we are shortchanging ourselves. We are minimizing our horizons. So when we speak like that as a political party, we are opening up eyes for the people of Zimbabwe to say, you know what, if you want to make it out there in the world, you've got to open up all your credit lines. You cannot segregate who you speak to where the economy is concerned, where relationships are concerned. We are open for business when we are open to all countries in the world.
Thank you so much, Madam President. Then my next question is that, myself, I stay in Chitungwiza and I need $3 a day to come to work and go back home. And in terms of water, because we do rely on Harare in terms of having water, because Harare itself cannot, supply enough water for its own residents. So sometimes in Chitungwiza, we might spend 3 weeks without water. And when we try to go and look for water at water points, we have a certain place. For those who stay in Chitungwiza knows that when you want water from along Rufaro Road, sewage. So then my question to you is, do you think your party have the capacity to solve the problems that the Zimbabweans are facing right now if you were to get in power in 2023?
Oh, very much so. The problem that you have spoken about there is one of the many problems that we have in the country. I think we've got much better, waterways, of which it is a shame, I have to say. I think seeing the president of a country having to commission a borehole in Chitungwiza. This is an urban area of which we've got better waterways. We've got taps. We've got, all of the plumbing and everything that has been put in place. That needs just to be maintained. So when we look into it and start to put boreholes in the urban areas, we're actually going backwards. We're not going forward. I'm looking at such an initiative to be put in the rural areas, where the waterworks, are not available, to all rural communities. So when you look at the Zimbabwean problem, you need to rectify the economy. So when you rectify the economy, then all of these problems that you're talking about are minor problems because they will be in hand. So what we need to look into is how we can come up with solutions, of which I said, FORUS party is a solution-orientated party in how we're going to come up with solutions that speak to the Zimbabwean problem, where the economy is at this very particular point in time. So what we have is a myriad of policies that we've come up and put in place that are much more centric in nature, that are liberal in nature. Like I've said, looking at the social aspect, how we're going to create jobs, for the socialist side, and how we can work with the capitalist side, those big businesses, that are out there, so that they can create employment, so that they can pay taxes, so that we can avoid, issues like the tax avoidance, tax evasion, and put proper policies in place that can actually speak to Zimbabwe and revive, its economy and creating this huge, tax base. We need to create a huge tax base. We need to culture tax. That's where the problem is. So without this, tax contribution from the Zimbabwean people, you can see that the country is going to face even more problems. And what we need to do is, we need to apply precautionary measures, working alongside, different institutes that actually help, the economy of Zimbabwe. I'm looking at the IMF, I'm looking at the World Bank, I'm looking at, even banks, like the BRICS itself. So these are all different credit, lines of credit facilities that we can look into and work with. Hence I said, if you want to work with everybody, you cannot segregate, your credit lines. We're open for business. We need to open up, to everybody else. So now when we create, these policies, hence the policies are very important, where we say, coming in as for us, you're seeing us on these different platforms, talking to people about what type of policies, that we have, how important, these policies are. First of all, I think we've got to come up with an orthodox, a program that has got an overview of the short-term, stabilization, program for Zimbabwe, and a mid-term and a long-term, stabilization program. So yes, there will be a shock that we're going to face, but we've got to accept that. We cannot try to avoid that, because we cannot match, other countries who have got emerging economies, or who have got, much comfortable economies. We have done it, which is where we're trying to operate. What we need to do is use a bottom-up approach and put in, these stabilization, programs, where we're looking at things like, price liberalization. We're looking at, exchange rate liberalization. We're looking at the RBZ, how it should function, the central bank giving it its autonomy, and how it can regulate, price, and allowing, demand and supply to take, its own function without using too much, fiscal involvement into that. So these are the policies that we've come up with that can speak to the Zimbabwean problem using the bottom approach, so that we can actually face the problem starting from the bottom, looking at where it was, and then incrementally increase the economy in the right direction.
Wow. So there is Yvonne Mashaya Mombe joining us online, and she says, so true how women are looked at and are considered based on cultural norms. It's said that women do not stand to vote one of their own until we learn how to vote. Until we learn how to fix each other's crowns as women, we'll keep shouting from the terrace about need for change. Let's bond together as women and rise together. Zimbabwe inyika yakanaka ine vanhu vane umbingi pintoga. So I think, yes, thank you so much, Yvonne Mashi, for joining us. And yes, my next question to you, Madam President, is you know that in March we had the by-elections, and like we said before when we were having this conversation, that people right now in Zimbabwe do not vote for a person as an individual, but they vote along party lines. So how are you going to make sure that as your party you influence the voter participation in the next election?
Yes, we've looked into that, and it's just that the current opposition parties, whether it be MDC, I'm looking at MDC at that particular point, did not voice so much of the issues that we have, where our electoral is concerned. So with that, FORUS party is coming in with so many things that we're looking into, and how we can enhance electoral reforms and force, I think, the government to look into such issues, so that we can create a better Zimbabwe. So with that, what we've come up with is asking the government through ZEC, so that we can have better electoral reforms, and then we can create a better transparent political campaign, and as well in the end have harmonized elections. So these are some of the things that we're looking into, and I've spoken to ZEC, and I've written to ZEC, and asking them to be transparent by forcing them to give us like the demographic figures for each constituency, so that we can have the numbers of people who have registered to vote, and as well if that can be given out early, so that we can look at the number of people in that particular area, and see how many people have registered to vote, and those who still have not registered to vote, so that we can go on around, giving out voter education, pushing people, to register to vote. These are some of the things that we're going around, doing. And as well, I think the issue that we have with the biometric fingerprint voting, that's something that can be rolled out in rural areas. This is something that we are voicing to say, if that can be rolled out in rural areas where there is difficulty for the elderly to move from one area to the next, and trying to reach where their registration office or the voting office is. So these are some of the things whereby the electronic biometric fingerprint voting can eradicate such a problem, whereby those who were willing to vote did not have a chance to vote because of the issue of the distance, of where they are and where the voting office is. These are some of the things that we're forcing for the ZEC to look into. And then the issue of not being inclusive where the disability community is concerned. I'm sure you can see we are the first political party to voice such a thing, where we're saying that there isn't any inclusive in the way that the voting offices they are not disabled friendly to those who are who find it challenging to vote because of the lack of being a physical problem, that they have, or even it being a health ailment, that they have, that they cannot transfer from one place to the other. So an inclusive nature is something that needs to be seen, because as you know, we've got about roughly 1.5 million of disabled, people in Zimbabwe. So with that, that's a huge number that needs to be heard, of which their voices need to be heard. And as well, I think representation for them in parliament is just started, because FORUS did voice out to say there isn't any representation. And you can see with us, our MPs, we've managed to put in some MPs who are disabled so that they can represent, that disabled constituency. So these are some of the things that we're looking into, so that we can force the government to be inclusive in its nature, to be transparent in its nature, so that we can have a better harmonized election. And as well, looking at what are the provisions that are there in terms of violence. That's an issue that affects Zimbabwe. So what is it that the government is doing? So we need something from the government of how they're going to handle the elections. We need a proper pathway that they need to come up with to say, this is what we're going to do when this happens. This is what we're going to do when this happens. We do not want an ad hoc situation whereby the police are just going to come out in the army in a way that is regressive to the voters, in a way that is repressive to the voters, and not actually meant to actually eradicate the violence, but the violence is there to intimidate the voters. We want it to be the other way around, whereby a proper pathway is given to all political parties before the elections, before the 2023 presidential elections, of how the government is going to handle the violence.
Thank you so much. I'm only left with only 2 questions because time is running out. And to those who have just joined us, this is Zimbabwe Daily, where we are doing our program Meet the Candidate, where we invite different aspiring candidate for the next election, which is going to be held in 2023. So yes, every presidential candidate, every candidate who is running, you can come through and share your story to the people, and the people will decide whether they will vote for you or not. So my next question to you is, do you think we have free and fair elections in Zimbabwe, Madam President?
When it comes to free and fair elections, I think we've got an issue there, because when people voice out that we need to come up with new electoral reforms, that just tells you that there is an issue, an underlying issue, whereby people do feel that the elections are not free and fair. What we need to see is see the current ruling party, like I've said, taking this inclusive, approach, allowing even, SADC to come in and be monitoring, elections, in Zimbabwe, and as well for the local natives of Zimbabwe, those who can be allocated as observers from all different political parties. This is something that the government can take as an initiative, so that they can show that, we've got free and fair elections, so that they can root out, this issue that the people of Zimbabwe keep on saying year in, year out, that, the elections were not free and fair. Somehow the elections were rigged. So it would be wise, I think, for the current ruling government to come up with the proposals, that we've put in place, whereby we can have a candidate from all different political parties, just like the juries, if you've got a juror, these are people from communities, different communities that you can take from different, you can use the same theory, whereby we can, same practice, I have to say, from different political parties, where there is representation of being in all these, ballot boxes and looking into it. And I think move away, from having to transport everything to the command center, rather than everything being sent to the command center, can there be another form of looking into how the vote cast can be recorded or can be counted, whereby we can include even our natives, our local Zimbabweans who are observers? They can be involved, in the counting itself, whereby even perhaps the counting can be done at the ballot box itself before it has gone to the command center, so that by the time it reaches the command center, you've got everybody knowing that okay, they are just collating all the information, but actually people are aware roughly to say okay, this is where we are with things. So if all those provisions are put in place, you find that the issue of saying has it been a free and fair election will be eradicated. And I'm sure it can put the government in the light, whereby people do trust the government, people do trust ZEC. So these are all the things that the government can do. But if the government is sitting still and not putting any new measures in place year in, year out, I'm sure that gray area will still be there, where people are questioning, was it a free and fair election?
Thank you so much. So thank you so much, Progress Mapfumo, for joining us online. You say is in Zimbabwe, okay, he was answering someone in Zimbabwe, no middle class, only elites and poor chete. And yes. Tandazan Moyo says the future president is speaking. Thank you so much, Tandazan, for joining us. You can keep on sending through your questions or anything that you would want to hear from the president. But then my last question to you, Madam President, is that how do you intend to repair Zimbabwe in the future, in your first year in office? Since you are already claiming that you are the government in waiting, so what are you going to do for us as Zimbabweans as soon as you assume office in 2023?
What I'm going to do, I think if the economy is the problem. So for us, Patie is looking very much the economic problem that Zimbabwe has. So what we've come up with the economic framework, that is anchored on looking at the fiscal discipline. That's something that I'll look into. Proper economic framework, political stability, innovations and creativity, putting in current and looking at current reforms and upcoming reforms that we can look into, cutting expenditure, employment creation, local empowerment initiatives, because there's quite a lot of issues, around the urban areas surrounding Zimbabwe as well as the rural areas. We need to center our employment creation around the tourist attraction areas. This is something that has never been done, of which we need to uphold and really put in a robust network of infrastructure network around our tourist attraction areas. And what I'm going to do as well is with that, you're now looking at the issues around catering for issues like devolution and decentralization. And then as well, the management and debt crisis is something that I'll be looking into straight away, of which we've come up, like I've said, with all different policies that speak to different investors, out there, of which we've gone around, started speaking to investors to see how we can come up with issues of creating employment, issues of bringing back manufacturing industries in Zimbabwe, as well, creating a social protection fund, for the people of Zimbabwe. They've got so many people who are in there who are complaining about not having pensions, or the amount of pensions that they are getting is so minimum that, it doesn't even last them 3 months. This is something that we're looking into, creating that nice protective, social protection fund. And as well, food security. This is something that I'll be looking into and see how we can revive the economy. If we push in for production as early, looking at the solar farming is something that I've said, I'm going to roll out. That's something that, probably within a time of 7 years and 10 years, we can start to see our payback period. And then I'm looking at how we can bring back the industrialization and the business mode and achieving that economic, growth. So what we have there is for us, Patie, having an objective, to see a prosperous, Zimbabwe through a solid economic plan, with a desired, achievement to push, Zimbabwe forward. And as we know that, the celebration of any economic achievement development must be done by all citizens, not by a small cliche or the political elite, like somebody's just said, and well connected. Zimbabwe is for all. Zimbabwe is for enrichment of the livelihoods of all Zimbabweans, but not just the few. So the pursuit of happiness in our is central, to FORUS Party, where the humankind is concerned, and happiness means the establishment of a society in which people's livelihoods are secure and their wishes and choices are respected and their personal liberty and security is guaranteed.
Okay, Madam President, there's this question which is coming through online, and it's Yvonne Mashi. She says, how do you deal with institutional deficits that have allowed mediocrity to thrive in Zimbabwe?
What you have there, I think, is the issue of separation of duties. Institutions are being created on top of institutions. So when you do that, then you're creating a problem whereby I think you're exhausting, I think your finance as well. So the problem in Zimbabwe is understanding that you do not want ghost institutions that are created on top of other institutions. So there we've got to have an understanding, okay, when you have institutions, you've got to sit down and look at what ministry do we have in Zimbabwe, all across Zimbabwe that is important, that can speak to the Zimbabwe of now, not the Zimbabwe of 1980. So these are some of the things that we need to look into, whereby we need to disregard, some institutions, that are there, that have been there for a long time, and they do not serve their purpose. So with that, we need to create, a proper institution that speaks to the Zimbabwe of now, a proper institution that is efficient and that is eloquent in the way that it's handling the problems in Zimbabwe in each ministerial accord. So these are some of the things that I've looked into within the Zimbabwean problem to see, okay, do we really need, NRZ? If we still do, then we need to, put in an institution for that. Do we really need an institution for health? Yes, we do. Then we need to put an institution for that. Do we really need an institution for expenses on top of other expenses? So we need to create, that division of where, I think it's going to start at the top. I think the Zimbabwean problem where you have is you've got no differentiation between the state, the parliament, and the judiciary. So with that, it starts from there, which is the first thing that I'm going to do as well. As soon as I come in, that separation of duties has got to be anchored and put in place. So with that, if you're exemplary like that, when you create other institutions, and then what institutions are relevant to the Zimbabwe of now. So that is something that is very important, so that we cannot just create an institution for the sake of creating an institution. But we know that, when you want to create a problem of corruption and so forth, you find different ways of trying to hide your corruption by creating institution on top of other institution. There now we've got an issue like we have the issue of the condonation bill that just came up. We had an issue whereby the amount of expenditure that was unauthorized could not be accounted for, because you've got all these different institute or different people handling all such different things, of which you can just have one line of communication that is so simple, so that you can actually look into these matters, without much delay.
Thank you so much, because we are now running out of time. And thank you so much, President Manyara, for coming through. We really appreciate, and we hope and wish you the best in your campaigns, and probably may you be safe in everything that you'll be doing. Probably you might have your last parting words before you leave the program.
Yeah, all I just want to say is that, FORUS is a party, for the people. And what we have is a duty and obligation to rebuild this country through a proper economic transformational agenda. What we're looking into is to create an inclusive and sustainable agenda to build a prosperous, Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe has experienced a wrath of economic decline. So these are some of the things that we are putting in place, looking at our health, looking at our education sector, looking at our business sector, looking at the state of our roads, looking at all these different things that we have that are actually causing our economy to be regressive. So FORUS, you've got a proper party that is liberal in its nature, that is there to revive the country's economy with proper policies that speak to the investors. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam President, and thank you so much, Tandazani Moyo. She says, food security is the fundamental rights of every Zimbabwean. Thank you for bringing food on the table. And yes, thank you so. And Yvonne Mashi says, thank you so much. As soon Godfrey Luigi says, as soon as I came in, we need counselors like as Godishina. And then Yvonne Mashi says, thank you for the response. I pray we get to the point where we reward fine thinking without putting political attacks on candidates. Zimbabwe needs leaders, new thinking, new systems, all the best, Madam President, and your party. So yes, I thank you so much for joining us today. Until we meet again, we wish you the best in your campaigns, and may you be successful. And we hope to see you next time as we interview you when you get into office. So thank you so much, viewers, for joining us today on our program, Meet the Candidate. And yes, every candidate is allowed to join us and share what you need to do for the people, or yes, what people need you to do for them. And yes, continue to join us every Monday at 12:30 as we bring you different candidates speaking about themselves. Until we meet again next week, I hope you have a great time. Remember to go and register to vote, and remember to check where you'll be voting at. Remember to just click *265# and make sure that you're still in the system. Yes, sake. And until we meet again, be safe, and remember that we are still in a COVID world. Wear your mask and continue to be safe. Until we meet again next time, from me and the team behind the scenes, thank you so much for joining us. It's bye-bye for now.
Thank you for having me.
You are welcome.